And today in this session talk, we're gonna have two keywords that we're gonna be discussing is the concept of future, like the keyword future, and the concept of care. And you're welcome to go into any direction that you think fits well. So it's like you feel free to improvise here. And yeah, my name is Olga. I'm going to be keeping an eye on any questions, suggestions in the Twitch live. But you can start now. Palle, can you start?
Oh, thank you. Wow, these words are big. And my first thought, we just got them, really. My first thought was that there are really two meanings here. It's caring about the future and the future of caring. And they're quite different, but of course, connected. What do you think, Natacha?
So first, thank you, Olga, for the introduction. And when I'm thinking about care in the future, the first thing that came to my mind is the theory of care. That's like the ecofeminist theory that says that all the animals, they're talking to us and they're saying to us they're like they do not want to die, and so this I'm always like so I think the care is very, we need to embrace this theory, especially nowadays, and enhance it to other entities, not only non-human animals, but for example attached to the concept of clouds and these non-human entities that we are surrounded. So like to apply this idea of how we, the humans, we have so much power in this Anthropocene era and how we affect all of them, and to how can we change this and take care of these other entities like the non-human animals or in the environment in general. So because this is our future, we have to going to build our future when we take care of this. So that's what I think.
It's hard not to agree with what you're saying. I'm thinking in terms of also of the attitude and mentality of people. If you think about, for example, I mean, we're going towards a more secular age, and if you think in terms of Buddhism, you have here and now, and then but you also have rebirth and karma, and many religions have this. You care about infinity or eternity and afterlife and things like that. That makes you think long term, because long term thinking is a major problem for humans, I would say. So we sort of have this enforced mechanism, and now when we sort of going away from that, at least some of us, we have to replace that with an insight, a systemic insight instead. I think understanding that everything is connected, as you say, because caring about yourself is caring about others, or if you want to care about yourself, you have to care about others and not just your closest ones, because we're all in it together. Everything is really connected, and this systemic insight really takes time to form. You need to do a lot of interactions or play with systems or interact with people in systems or study ecology or play in a musical ensemble where these systems also appear, or be in nature and see how things are affected in very long distance relationships with each other. But it all happens. It all affects everything. So I think this is a problem, even though I'm very much for religion myself, but I can see this transition, and we really have to work with that insight.
That's so interesting. Like the concept of care becomes this new, another religion, right? Then that we're all in need. How do you think it's forming then now in terms of like the creative sector, like all of the artists and all of the creative industries right now, the musicians also who are sitting right now, and there are a lot of emerging groups and emerging, like, I don't know, pages that like say, let's support our artists, that we need to care about the art, because eventually art is one of those forces that create this religion of care somehow, that we can say. How do you think, and how is it going in Sweden right now?
Well, I have lots of colleagues who are in trouble economically, of course, and there are some help packages from the state, but of course they are aimed towards those more established, and the real freelancers and the experimental artists, I think, have a problem taking part in those sort of support packages. I think the long-term thinking that I mentioned before is really a problem also in the valuing of art. And because, you know, if you took away all of art, it would, like a city or a country or a culture wouldn't exist or wouldn't be interesting, or people wouldn't, you know, like to go there. So it definitely has this kind of economical values that some people only care about. But it's so far in the future, it's not like, well, you hear my terrible or terribly strange piece of music right now and you think it's strange, but maybe it's part of a big movement that develops new kinds of music that has a big value in the future, and you can't see that right now. That's why I think that the Swedish model of even if it's not perfect, but also in most European countries where you have some kind of state support for art and it's not all in the market, is important. So I think this is connected to this long-term thinking. Regarding caring, I'm a bit worried, you know, because the big players in the culture industry, they don't care about care at all. I mean, the big record labels, the film companies, it's more about fighting and conquering. But in the field of experimental art, which I think we all are in one way or another, I see a lot of people helping out. Even if you don't have much money, you spend money on friends' records or friends' online releases, or you help each other setting up alternative ways of getting things out there, etc. So I think this is an age-old pattern, but it's worth mentioning. Natacha, you think?
Yes, I would like to. My connection is like unstable right now. So yes, I would like to point that I feel there's a huge gap between plays from, for example, Sweden and Brazil, even though recently the president of my country, he compared like Sweden with Brazil concerning the corona, because Sweden was never make the lockdown, but I mean, it's a totally utopian comparison because the circumstance that we live, and mostly also because of the practice of this government they applied right now. For example, they cut a lot of budgets for human researchers in the human area, and art and literature and music, and they don't see like any value in this. And for example, right now I know that they cut a lot of these research budgets from the universities also. So culture in Brazil is like it's being very attacked and destroyed, and it's like and the situation is not getting better. So I think it's a critical moment. It has been for some years. We had like some other cases. For example, 2 years ago, museum burned, a very historical museum. So we are facing these situations where in Brazil I don't see a very bright future for it. And I just hope that in the future this political and economic situation can change, and also can put more care in the culture, because we definitely need it there, and that's my hope for my country in general. So yes, and I think at this moment is also very difficult for the artists in general, because it's a lot of pressure to being creative and productive. So but sometimes I think it's like maybe we need to discuss the care of the artist, like the mental care, to think about how the situation can be very difficult and challenging. So yes, that's my point of view.
And creating spaces for artists to develop slow insights, because currently it's in the art and music world, it's all about making a viral post on Instagram, and that's your latest post is your CV, and that is very annoying. And will be very uninteresting in the future, I think. I mean, it would be interesting as a phenomenon, but I don't think the art that comes out is very interesting. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Actually, in Sweden, they are increasing the funding for the universities right now because of Corona. So because there are so many unemployed because of this, they increase the numbers of students and new courses and things like that. And I think that's
Yes,
the right way to do it.
Yeah, I wish the president could see this, and also if he wants to model a course to Sweden, like.
Well, it's not perfect, but that is the right thing to do in the time of crisis, I would say, both to give people something to do, but also something very meaningful to do. And it would also be very caring and efficient by the society to care about the artists and all the independents, because if they fail, if they crash, if they become homeless, if they become sick, they will cost much more. So, decent support is actually a lesser cost, and we also get something very meaningful out of it. But that's very hard to see for some people.
Yeah, I think early support would matter a lot. I mean, I in Germany that they were like immediately took some actions when all the pandemic started, and everyone was discussing that. Also, we have a question in the Twitch. We have like really powerful words. Do you think care made us individualistic since COVID-19 started? What does it mean for the future?
Can you say that? Did you think care made us individualistic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, for example, in my experience, it has been difficult, but I feel like sometimes more connected to people, because normally I have been talking with some people that normally, for example, in the normal circumstance, I could never think about spending a time to talk with these people. For example, some people in Brazil, some like former professors, and right now I feel like yes, that could be a very good opportunity to be more in touch with these people and how are they doing. So for example, the other day I talked to my dearest professor in Brazil, and it was really nice conversation and like taking care of us in this kind of sense. So
yeah, I think it worked the other way. I mean, there may have been some people, you see certain protesters in the US, etc., that are, but they're quite few. I think in most countries it seems like people are realizing the sort of systemic points of it all, that we're really in this together, and I can't act selfishly right now because it will both harm me and others. And one would hope that we could act in the same way in relation to environment and climate change, for example. But once again, we have this problem of long-term, slow changes that are equally or maybe much, much more dangerous, but it takes longer. It's like this frog swimming in water that slowly gets heated, and the frog doesn't realize when it's boiling. And the corona came so fast, so we are able to stop traveling and stay home and lower our consumption, unnecessary consumption, and start talking to each other in new ways and change our behaviors quite drastically. But we have not been able to do that in the face of a much larger existential risk. And that is worrying. And I think it really goes back to this lack of long-term thinking. But I hope people open their eyes. I'm a little bit optimistic because it seems like people can see. If you talk to most people, they realize, yeah, we need to do this. It seems like these lockdowns, and actually Sweden has sort of maybe half voluntary lockdown, but I've certainly been in lockdown for months now, and many are here too. It's like it has a big support in most countries.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I agree that we all like need to unite somehow, all the people of industry, because also to receive a support, you have to be heard also. You have to declare that like you need this. And I think maybe sometimes it's problematic in some of the countries was not establishing this quality network between the artists. But I think it's evolving, of course. So we just need to give it some time. One more question that we have here at this moment is, what would be an alternative to social media in the future for artists? I think maybe it was in term what you were saying, that in social media everyone posts for this care, supports and everything, and it's like the last post is your last CV. But
well, the alternative may be, and I sound like a grumpy old man now, that to actually meet, to actually play music if you're a musician with other people, or to make art at home, even if you're not a professional artist, actually, you know, what we sometimes call amateur art making or amateur musicianship is just as important to do things. I think it's art and music, they're verbs. To do it is what counts and not products to be sold. To have, you know, to have an artwork in front of you for a long time, to spend time with it and to realize that it's an investment. So of course we cannot predict what will come after social media, but I think what we lack, and I see so many of my musician friends around the world, many of them find ways to play online streams, etc., or put out releases, but many of them also express that I really, really, really miss being in the same room with people who play music that I can listen to, or to play with people in the same room. And I must agree with that. I'm a very live-oriented musician. I want to be there and play, and I miss that. So I think maybe it opens our eyes about those real human communication qualities. It's different to be in a room talking than talking like this too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Natasha, do you have anything to add? Because we're close to the end, but if you have something.
Yes, no, I just think about this question of the social media. Sometimes like I've been a bit skeptical because especially in the era of TikTok, so it's very easy to use the medium and make some kind of artwork. So yes, I don't know what the future brings, but but also there's also there's other movements of not using smartphones and get into some analogic technology. So yes, can be. Let's see.
You can really use the technology to make interesting art too. That's I mean, it's not either or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we, I mean, right now we lack the human, the physical, the shared dimension in between humans, I would say.
Yeah.
But when you mention TikTok, I mean, I'm not on there, but I see stuff and I see lots of things being posted. I must say that, you know, a lot of the stuff that people also make on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, it's that kind of art making that I talked about. You know, it's not for eternity. It's also, you know, I make this cool picture now, or I make this dance now, etc. You know, that is also worth something. So, you know, it's a duality. It's not all bad and all good on different sides.
Yes. Yes, this is totally a duality. Yes, not between. Yes, we have to find yes, exactly this place in between. And but it's very interesting to think about art and to think in the past how art was like changing and until we reach this moment and we are building like this future for art, which is also exciting to think about that.
And we have to remember that the view of what art was very different just 100 or 200 years ago. The current view of the artist as an independent, self-expressing person, it's rather new. So it may be completely different 100 years from now. Maybe there are no artists, but everybody's making weird expressions. And you know, it's impossible to imagine, but we should be aware that it has always changed. A few hundred years ago, you were the voice of God in some cultures, and then you were the voice of a king, and you know, now we're our own voices. We think, but we're also part of communities, and every artwork is derivative and comes from other artworks, and we have to realize that. And the view will be different in the future, but nobody knows.
Yeah. And also this made me think, I'm like we can like make this another day, another topic, but I also think about the museums. What will be the museums in the future? Because if the artwork changes, if like it's everything online, it's if you can do your artwork and these concepts change, how it will be about the museums then? What will be displayed there? We will still in 100 years go to the museums to see these old artworks, and what about it? I don't know.
The museum is the Wayback Machine of the web. Yeah, it will be complex.
Yes. Seems like it's going to be a great combination of the digital art and the real life, and it's all going to be like new hybrids all together. I think we're close to our time because it's 22 minutes, but it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed hearing the last 5 minutes when you were discussing this in between relations also. So it was really cool. Thank you so much. We'll post all of the additional questions separately that we didn't have a time to look at on Twitch. Palle, thank you so much for your time today and for this amazing discussion. Natacha, you too. We hope to see you all together to meet once again in real time. Stay
Thanks
safe.
for inviting us. It was a pleasure.
Yes, thanks. I'm looking forward to go to the class, sit on the chair, listen to the professor. Yes, super excited for this small thing, but it's like huge in life.
For sure, that's for sure. Guaranteed.
And thanks for your beautiful exhibition. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're gonna go offline now, and we're gonna see all the additional another session starting at 1 CET. Thank you again, Palle. Thank you again, Natacha. Stay safe.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.